What's up, everybody? You know who this is. It's your boy, Will. And I'm just sitting here on a Sunday afternoon, and I thought, why not? I'm not doing anything. Let's do a video. Let's share some of my thoughts with some of my closest friends on YouTube. That would be you guys. So, without further ado, here we go. You know, me and my girl went out last night, and we got into an altercation with a young man. And I use that word loosely. He wasn't a man, most likely a boy. He's what we call a club thug. You know, somebody who pretends to be hardcore in a club because he believes that women love bad boys, so he wants to put on the thug uniform. Oh, you never heard that term before? You don't know what thug uniform is? Let me explain to you real quick. The thug uniform is either a white tee or black tee that goes down to your thighs or your knees. You have to have the saggy pants. But they just can't be saggy or loose. They have to have the sag game. That is the most important part of the saggy pants. And last but not least, you have to have the boots or the Timbs. Oh, and I forgot about this part. You have to have the right accessories as well. So you have to have two accessories in order to complete your thug uniform. So it would be your hair has to be kind of wacky and weird, either an afro that's unkept, or some kind of zigzag lines, or some really jacked up fade with something in your head that says Thug Life or something. Oh, you have to have your neck tattoos or arm tattoos that says something crazy. And then, last but not least, you have to have the mean mug face. The mean mug face, you ask? Let me show you. The mean mug face is something that goes something like this. Now, mind you, this is a reenactment, something like you would see on like America's Most Wanted. I'm not very good at the mean mug face because I'm not a thug, but I will do my best to recreate this thing for my people on YouTube. So here we go. What you looking at? There. How's that? I know it's not perfect. It's not even great. But that is just a sample of what a mean mug face looks like. So, you know, I get into this altercation with this gentleman, and I use that word loosely as well. And it kind of got me to thinking about something. You know, we got a lot of people who put on these uniforms, you know, who pretend to be something they're not. And if you look at the world today, we got a lot of people who do that in our politics. Politicians always put on uniforms. They put on what they think we want to see in order to woo us. See, the club thug puts on his thug uniform in order to get girls at the club. So he thinks that, you know, that when he actually wears the thug uniform, that makes him a real thug. But see, sooner or later, he's going to actually meet a real thug. Not a club thug, but somebody who's going to pull his whole card. And see, he met that dude last night. Not saying that I'm a thug. I'm just saying that where I grew up, I had to have some kind of thug tendencies. And so when we got into our altercation, I knew that what I was dealing with was a club thug. So I let loose the grip of my bottle that I was going to use to send him to the hospital for those 16 stitches, and just kind of laughed and let it go. Because he pushed my girl. So you can push me, you can bump me, but don't bump my girl. We're just trying to have a good time. And I'm 37 years old. I have no business fighting in the club. But I don't look for trouble, and I won't start a fight. But Lord have mercy, for those who start things with me, I shall finish it. But enough of that. But we always have the guy who puts on the uniform. And even in politics, politicians put on the uniform as they think that will attract the most voters. So in 2008, we had Obama put on his presidential uniform. During the campaign, he told everybody what they wanted to hear. How he was going to change politics, how he was going to make things happen that have never happened before. And so now, after 2 years, we know that it was a facade, that once he was elected, it was a whole nother ball game. We found out that he wasn't a real thug, a real president. He was just putting on presidential clothes. He was like that club thug who, when I looked in his eyes, I realized he wasn't going to do anything. And see, the world now knows after 2 years that Obama's a club thug, that he's not going to do anything. So, you know, people take us now as a joke. Our foreign policy is a joke. There is absolutely no way, with the resources that we have, that we should not have known that all the turmoil that was going on in the Middle East was going to be happening. There is absolutely no freaking way that we shouldn't have known that. There is no freaking way that Facebook and Twitter should have alerted us to any kind of revolution in the Middle East, whether it was Tunisia, Egypt, or not even Libya. Facebook and Twitter should but not be the way we find out about these things. But that's the kind of person we got in the White House, because now we understand that he was just wearing presidential clothes. He wasn't a president. He wasn't a real president, just somebody who was pretending to be in order to get elected, telling you what you wanted to hear. But now he's been exposed. So now that he's been exposed, what are we going to do, people? We see that we can't have this weakness in the White House in these turbulent times. We can't have a weak president, somebody who's wearing president clothes, when we got a situation where the Saudi Arabians are sending troops into Bahrain to quell dissidents and to squash freedom, and we don't say anything. We need somebody who's a real president, who's going to say, regardless of whether you hold the reins or you're holding the pump that pretty much moves our economy, because you control the oil that makes our gasoline, that regardless of whether you do that or not, we're still going to speak up for freedom. We're going to speak up for freedom everywhere. It shouldn't take us 3 weeks or 4 weeks to realize that, wait a minute, we need to help the people in Libya, those rebels, before they get squashed by the Gaddafi military regime. See, these are things that a president would know, not somebody wearing presidential clothes, somebody being a fake thug or a club thug. See, Gaddafi's a real thug. The Chinese premier, real thug. Those guys all over the Middle East, the Saudi princes, the Bahrain prince and all them, real thugs. See, a real thug, or somebody with thug tendencies, will show you that you are just fake. They will expose you for the club thug that you are. And that's what happened to Obama. There's absolutely no way we should have $3.60 gas right now, because our government should have been ahead of this. Now, if this was Bush, and I'm no fan of Bush, this would have been, all hell would have broke loose around the country. Dems would have been screaming bloody murder that, oh my God, gas prices. But right now we're supposed to understand, because the boy king is doing the best he can. See, we need somebody who's president, not presidential, not somebody who's wearing presidential clothes. We need somebody who's ready to be president. So in 2012, people, hear me. Please do not fall for another slogan like winning the future. I mean, all I hear now when I hear winning is Charlie Sheen. And we all know what a joke that is. Don't put this joke back into office. Please do not put this joke back into office. We've seen him mess up domestic policy. We're watching him just totally befuddle and mess up the foreign policy. What else do we need to know? That we have somebody who was just wearing presidential clothes, who put on the presidential uniform to get elected, but who wasn't a real president, who did not have the makings, the innards, the guts, the kahunas to be president. So in closing, people, I try my best not to do 10-minute videos, but this one I couldn't hold back on. I had to say it all. Mark my words. with this guy in office, the real thugs in the world don't care because they already looked into his eyes and seen that he's a paper thug, that he's a club thug. And they're going to continue to do what they want in Bahrain. They're going to continue to do what they want in Egypt because the Egyptian military ain't going to give up power. You heard it here first. They're not giving up power. They refused, I guarantee you. They're going to put these mock elections up, but they're not really going to give up power. But what is our contingency plan for that? You ain't heard nothing about Egypt since the Libyan thing happened. And look at our timid response to the Japanese thing. Our foreign policy is in disarray because we have somebody pretending to be president, somebody who doesn't know what it really means to understand how the world works. Just because he grew up in Indonesia doesn't mean that he understands how foreign policy works. That was one of the things that they wanted you to believe, that, well, since he grew up here and he grew up there, that makes him an automatic diplomat. No, it doesn't. So people, remember, please remember, don't fall for slogans this election cycle. Remember, because I'm saying the polls and people have short memories. Remember, we want a president, not somebody wearing presidential clothes. This your boy Will. I'm out.